Hi everybody, it's ADogs, and thank you all for coming to my channel. So today we're going to be reading the Cray Epic series. There's a total of 9 chapters, I do believe. So we're going to be going through chapter 1 first, which is episode 0, the prologue. I will be doing the rest of the episodes in different videos, but with that out of the way, let's jump into the story. This has become quite troublesome. He thought this just before he fell into a deep slumber. His surroundings were in complete darkness. Cronus Command Dragon rarely looked around, trembling. There was a strong mold-like smell and the faintest hint of crawling beetles. With a wave of his gear staff, the lights turned on, revealing the stone ruins. Perhaps it had been abandoned for a tremendous amount of time. The walls were collapsing, the ceiling rotting, the dark sky visible through the gaps. Now, in his memory it had gone like this. Until now, he had been experimenting in order to create a gate that would connect the present and the future. The future, that being said, the technology to create a gate to the past had already been established, so theoretically it was just a matter of reversing it. The laboratory where the experiments were conducted was located in an ancient ruin, though the facilities were quite adequate. However, during the experiment, an unexpected white flash of light enveloped him, and he found himself standing here. It was an unknown location. Looking around, there was not anything that looked like a gate. Was it a failure? No problem. Failure was an essential part of experimentation, and as long as a cause could be figured out, there was always next time. This is how he had been working to develop technology to cross time and space. Cronus Command Dragon, later in time, he would be described as follows. Gear Chronicle, with their ability to repair space-time, gained some of their time-traveling abilities through the research of the Cronus Command Dragon. However, during his experiments in respect of that, he is said to have disappeared. The place he had disappeared to was a mysterious, dimly lit cavern. First of all, he had to gather information. So he put his hand to his wand again and activated a spell, and a formation in the shape of a gear appeared in midair. A pale light spread out, illuminating the area intensely, but it did not spread outward from the ruins. Like the white embers of a fire, the light subsided and the place was enveloped in darkness once again. It was as if the place was covered with a thick film of air. Magic could not be used here. Well, leaped out his voice, filled with anticipation and delight, a characteristic of one who had overcome so many failures. However, he had no way of knowing that this was not his world, but rather a planet called Cray. The Messiah's blessing that had once existed on this world had already disappeared, and as such magic had disappeared. Of course, without magic it was impossible for him to return to his original world. He could neither travel through time nor across worlds, thus he slumbered to maintain his power. Eventually, hundreds and thousands of years would pass. In the depths of the collapsed ruins, accompanied by a huge mass, there was a sign of someone. "Oh yeah!" From within the ruins, a repulsive voice sounding as if it was gurgling out from the bottom of muddy sludge. Well, the renowned Cronus Command Dragon." There was a sound of something dragging across the ground. What emerged from darkness was a mysterious unknown. Its entirety could not be made out. A strange shoo-shoo breathing sound could be heard. Not one, not two, but countless bright red eyes were glowing in the depths of the darkness. At the end of their gaze was Cronus Command Dragon, who had slumbered for a long time. The light had faded from its once powerful body, and it seemed to have become one with the decaying ruins. The deep sleep had rendered him unconscious, and he was unaware of the danger looming over him. The unknown opened its crimson maw in the attempt to swallow Kronos' command dragon. Ah, delicious! Gulping its throat, rumbled and fell. Now, it was quite a short one, so we will go into the second chapter. So, Chapter 1, Episode 1, The Beginning. It was quite difficult to set that tree alight. It was even said that with 7 times the amount of flames from a furnace, it would still not burn. Thus it was called Nanakamado, due to its fire resistance. In some regions, it is planted in gardens as a fire retardant tree plant. Frankly, I think that's overestimation. Rorowa wailed in his heart as he ran as fast as he could through the golden wheat field. He looked unreliable, his body thin, and his sword skills so-so. When it came to things he could be proud of, yeah, honestly, there was nothing. That was the conclusion he had come to after living for 17 years. Though the ones who had raised him always said something like this: "Your body will not burn, so set alight your soul, Rora, the Rowan Bioroid." Similarly, running as fast as he could along the wheat-field roadway, a young man hit Rora on the back. The large man named Olivi was an olive bioroid. Both his weight and physique were at least twice that of Rora. "So much for what they say. This is definitely going to burn us." Out of breath, his vision wavering. Even so, he could not stop his tangled legs. After all, the insect whose entire body was alight with flames, Burneran, was pursuing them from behind. "You nuances! You nuances!" While shouting, the 3-meter tall giant and let out flames. The fire caught on the hems of their clothes, and their clothes burst into flames. "Ouch! Ouch! Hot! Hot!" Why was that happening? As he did a strange tap dance to put out the fire like a revolving lantern, Roa's memories came back to him. It was just this morning, as the duo travelled around planet Cray, they overheard a conversation in the Thuri district. "There's a burner ant rampaging in the wheat field. Everyone is afraid of it, so no one will go near it. It's good that the field hasn't been destroyed yet, but I wonder when it will be burned down." By the side, Livy, his foster parent and older brother, was clenching his fists tightly, his virile face full of righteous indignation. His intense olive-coloured eyes seemed to be burning with flames. "Hey, Olivie!" Roller softly called out and had an unpleasant premonition, and unfortunately they often came true. "Let's go and take down Burneran!" And that's what they set out to do. But of course, it would not work out that way. After all, neither of them were very good at fighting. Bioroids were a race of those who had a plant factor. Their appearance is similar to those of humans, wearing the flowers and leaves of their alter ego on their hair and body. Olivie was an olive bioroid who looked to be in his mid-20s by human standards, with olive leaves curling around his hair. A pendant that looked like a ripe black olive fruit swung across the chest of his warm clothes. He carried a long sword, though it had never been used in battle. At most, it was used to clear away obstructive undergrowth blocking the animal trail. Then there was his younger brother, Roroa, who will turn 17 this year, his dark green hair decorated with the leaves and berries of the rowan, and he had a rather pitiful expression on his face. His eyes and nose were clean cut, as was characteristic of his race, but his unconfident atmosphere left a weak impression. He too carried a rapier with a hilt decorated with rowan, but he could not even remember the last time he used it. It could be said that it was far too reckless for these two to challenge Burnerant. Coo! After running through the wheat field, they finally ran to a deep irrigation canal. Looking behind them, Burnerant was gradually approaching them, spewing a thin cloud of smoke. Olivia's face twisted in anguish. If this is it, then it can't be helped. I will have to use my last resort. The reassuring words of his older brother, as Rora turned towards him with the expectations, Olivia outstretched his arms, grabbing him by the torso. Eh? With no time for resistance, Olivia threw Rora, not across the canal, but instead at Burnerant. Go, Rora! Headbutt! Wah-ee! The clench of Rora's stone head. With excellent control, it was a direct hit on Burnerant's head, with its large body shook and fell to the ground. So far so good, it seemed like most of its brain cells had been called to the heavens, though it would be best to give it the benefit of the doubt. The problem began from here. Alright! Ouch! As Rora stood up while holding his head, something hit his toes. It was Burnerant's arm, which was still on fire. Ah! The arm was kicked away, touched the dry wheat field. In that moment, the wheat grains burst into flames. Unfortunately, it took several hours for the fire to be extinguished, and the surrounding were left burned to the ground. Upon returning to the village, Rora bowed his head so deeply and profoundly that it touched the ground. I'm so sorry. Heave ho, it's okay, it's okay. It was only a matter of time before we'll burn them anyway. It was the turnip dryad Heave Ho Turnip who said this in a troubled yet gentle manner. A dressed up turnip with 4 limbs, round eyes and a cute mouth. Dryads were spirits born from plants. Most of them are engaged in daily farm work, working hard to maintain food production. While Rora was apologizing at the front of the wheat store, many carts loaded with vegetables were passing by on the road. They were, in theory, a rural area in the west of the land of Zoo, though there were no scenic beauties or local specialties. The soil was rich, and the Dryads had built a fine village where they made a good living. More than 90% of the food on planet Cray was produced in this lush green nation. Zoo and the Dryads held everyone's stomachs as a food supply of Cray. That's what I told him, too. Rora mentally sighed at his older brother, Olivier, who was behaving brazenly while next to him, but for some reason he couldn't come to hate him. He was aware that he lacked the ability to pull attention to himself and lively communication skills. How have things been these days? Is it just so usual around here? I've heard that it's been pretty tough in Dragon Empire and United Sanctuary. I guess it doesn't matter since they're across the ocean. When Olivier threw in some small talk, Heave Ho Turnip put his hand on his chin as if he were troubled. Heave Ho! We've been trying to keep things as normal as possible. Though, anxiety is anxiety, but if we don't go on as normal, everyone will go hungry. Oh, that's true. I hold great respect for what you guys do. If you have any problems, just let us know and we'll do whatever we can. Heave ho, there are none. Oh! As Olivier made a fool of himself, Heave Ho Turnip shrugged his shoulders. It seemed that they were far from trustworthy to him. So we'll have to leave it at that. We're thinking of heading to the next village by the end of today. Olivier gave a slight bow. This is how the two of them lived their lives, travelling from village to village. If someone was in trouble, they would do their best to help, and after the problem was solved, they would go to the next village and so it went. Honestly, the most of them could not be solved. As Livy turned to leave and the Heave Ho Turnip ripped his sleeve. Wait! I also run an inn! This must be a chance encounter. You should stay overnight. No, sorry. It won't be as much gold as a loss from the wheat that was burnt. So you say, by the way, how much is the stay? Heave ho, 1 gold coin per person. That much? 1 gold coin would be 10 days? Or if it were bread 300? No, never mind. Yeah, the end is this way. While they were being guided by Hove Turnip, Roa whispered in Olivia's ear, "Hey, Olivia, one gold coin is way over our budget. I know, Q. Sell this if something goes wrong." With an expression of anguish, Olivia clutched the pendant on his chest. It was a black stone that resembled an olive fruit, with the fine milled gold work that surrounded it shining. Heave-Ho Turnip, who was walking in front of them, glanced at it. "You wouldn't be able to sell a dirty necklace like that." "Arara, did you hear us?" "Heave-Ho, that's right. That there has been a problem." Heave-Ho Turnip pointed to the cobblestone paved crossroad. Following the tip of its finger, they saw that the stone had been scraped away, leaving behind that looked like a huge furrow. It seemed to go all the way to the outskirts of the city. "There have been lots of those strange marks lately. Not only the roads, but wheat and turnips have also been destroyed. Who could be doing it? If you find them, punish them." Got it. Leave it to us," Olivia replied with a voice of token cheerfulness, but his eyes carried a sharp light with an unprecedentedly serious look. Rora called out to him, "Olivia! What's wrong? Why such a look? It's nothing." Olivia laughed, hitting Rora's head. Do many people remember the day they were born in this world? At the very least, Rora remembers it vividly. "Yo, kiddo, sleep time is over." The young man's voice was rough, impolite, and with no consideration to the other party. The consciousness, wrapped like a cradle by thin, large leaves, slowly awakened. Of course, the man would not allow even a gentle awakening. "So wake up! Morning! Morning! Good morning!" Those last words, his toes came down, ripping the thin leaf membrane that had enveloped the boy, and like that he was kicked into the outside world. This was the first memory of his life. Bioroids did not have fathers or mothers. They were born wrapped in plants. Standing in front of him was an olive bioroid, a black pendant shining on his chest. "The name's Olivia. Feel free to call me Oni-chan. Oni-sama works as well." "Olivia? That's it?" Even though a bioroid was born in a grown-up form, their brain could not keep up with such a rapid development. The stranger's bravado was frightening, and he looked around as if to ask for help. "Hi!" He couldn't help but let out a scream because of the horrible scene spreading around him. Originally, it was a forest with a good view or something, but now, the low-lying vegetation were grey and withered, and the trees had lost all their leaves. A sweet, rotten smell filled the air, enough to make one feel sick in the stomach. Birds, insects, and anything else that could be called life were dying as far as the eye could see. One could only imagine that they had been overrun by some tremendous force. In the midst of all this was a scene of himself holding his knees like a tightly closed bud in the man that stood arrogantly before him. "By the way, had I left you alone, you too would have been perished. It's a pity you were born in this time. My condolences." "What should I do? Do you want to help? Help?" To this day, he still wondered why he couldn't answer that question by reflex. Was it because he was newborn and not yet capable of making decisions? Was it because he was too afraid of Olivia to speak up? Or was it because he did not want to live? "Answer! Yes! Okay, however, there is some conditions. You're going to come with me to fill this world with life." "Fill with life?" Again, like a powerless parrot, he could hear the words, but could not comprehend what was being said. "What's with the look in your eyes? Saving others is a great and outstanding thing. You look as if you think I can't do it." Olivia smiled, puffing out his chest. "I'm not trying to be like the famous Master Blade. Even if I tried my best, that would be impossible, but still." Olivia grabbed the boy's hand and pulled him up forcefully. The boy managed to get up on his 2 feet, almost tripping over himself. A breeze filled with ashes blew past him, caressing his cheeks. We too can help others, no matter how small or trivial it may be. The world is wide, ain't that right, partner? Uh-huh. Okay, from now on, your name is Roroa. Standing back up even if you're burned 7 times. Rora of the Rowan. That was his first encounter with Olivia. He would later learn that the trees had died due to an unknown catastrophe, and that Rora was the only bioroid to survive. It a miracle that he was rescued from the cradle and was able to be born. Since then, together with Olivia, they had travelled around the world for 17 years. In that time, he saw many different people and lands. United Sanctuary, a holy nation that fuses faith and technology, and values justice and order. The regular army, Royal Paladin, possesses many knightly orders who work hard to maintain the security of the country. Dragon Empire, with vast territory that stretches from east to west. It is an empire ruled by dragons with great power, with the first pillar army, Cargro, at its head. Stargate, a large nation located at the southernmost tip of the planet, a land where cultural exchanges with other planets flourishes. It is home to many clans that excel in science and technology, such as Nova Grappler and Dimension Police. It is also the country where the Link Joker who tried to invade planet Cray during the Invasion Great War have been residing ever since. The Dark Zone, a nation ruled by the Demon Kin through magic. This is also where the Spike Brothers, a clan of players from a popular sport on planet Grey, Gallows Ball, and Pale Moon, a glamorous nightmare circus, Trip operate. Megalancia, filled with the inhabitants of the sea, including pirates and the navy. It is an archipelago nation where immortal inhabitants such as zombies live. Furthermore, the idol unit Bermuda Triangle, made up of adorable mermaids, can soothe the heart of any person. And last but not least, there is our zoo. As aforementioned, it is a food-producing nation and is home to great nature, the academic capital of the High Beast. It is also the base of the Megaton, a criminal group of insects like Burn-Ant, Uroa, and Living Men. As they journeyed from village to village, nation to nation, Rova and Lively did what they could. There were times they did maintenance on an armor, fought a kraken that plagued the village, and cut tickets for a circus. It wasn't just once or twice they had been in danger. Wasn't that amazing, Chrono's command dragon? Didn't they say that he was summoned from the future to help Chronojet Dragon? No, no, no. We could have died if we got involved. In the course of their travels, they'd seen heroes whose names they'd only heard of fight in the distance, of course, as Roa stated. The correct action for the general public to take was to keep as far as possible, and as one could see, Olivia was brimming with curiosity. Even so, the fact that he didn't end up in a fatal pinch was as expected. Compared to Olivia, who was unexpectedly good at getting the gist of things, Roa just could not get a gist of things. Whenever he whined about it, Olivia would laugh. It's only natural. You're only 17, and your head is still but a bud. How old do I look? 25? Maybe a bit more? Are you 27? 1,005 years old. No, maybe I'm 4. That's joke's not funny, Olivia. What? That's how much respect you should have for me, so give me that juice. I don't want to. It's going to spill. Wah! Wah! As usual, Olivia made jokes and comforted Roa in a way that he did not recognize, but the feeling of, what should I do, never went away. Today was no different, and he had ended up burning the wheat field. The flames that had flared up as soon as the fire was lit still lingered in his mind. Perhaps it was because he was a bioroid, but the burning of a field that had been carefully cultivated was more painful to him than having his own body cut down. Can't sleep. Rolla lay in his bed at night. The more he tried to sleep, the more the flames came back to his mind. His were alert from this uneasiness, glancing to his side, Livy was sleeping while hardly snoring. Oh nom nom! Can't eat anymore! What a cliche dream! While laughing involuntarily, Rora rose from the bed, putting on the jacket that was hanging and carrying his rapier. As he left the inn while trying not to make a sound, he saw that no one was in the street. The two moons that were supposed to be rising in the sky were nowhere to be seen. Perhaps it was a new moon and the darkness was getting thicker. The wind was strong and it made his heart flutter in his chest. Rora hurried down the road to the wheat field. The burnt field was covered with black ash, with no trace of the beautiful golden ears of wheat. Looking at the devastated scene again, Rora was lost for words. Unable to stand still, he knelt down on the ground and touched the field with both hands. No matter how bad a bioroid he was still a bioroid. They had the power to bless and nurture plants with natural power. As if in prayer, he gave it all his power, and his palms became covered with a white power light that poured into the earth. But there was no reaction at all. It was when he looked up in despair. From the ash-covered field, a young sprout emerged. Soon, another and another young wheat sprouts, finally, lush green wheat grew from entirely of the burned-out field. Yay! However, just before the ears of wheat could appear, something strange happened. They stopped growing and turned black as if it was rotting from the roots. In the blink of an eye, the wheat turned from green to black to white grey, then withered away. Just like, yes, it was just like the scene of that day. Why? It was at that moment when Rora screamed out, Zoo, Zoo, Zoo! He heard a huge mess dragging itself around the ground, and he heard a voice from nowhere. His feet collapsed under him. It was a repulsive sound that would make you feel as if you were being sucked into the abyss, unable to speak. He slowly looked behind. Within darkness was an unidentifiable unknown. Countless glowing eyes, dyed with a murderous bright red. The unknown may not have been just one or two things. Zoo, 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 zoo. He could only guess from the sound of the dragging that it was something long and large. Suddenly, the huge ruts he had seen in the village came into Rora's mind. It couldn't be. Was it pursuing him? Why? The unknown spread open its dark red maw and laughed. His legs trembled, unable to move. His teeth chattered. As a biological instinct, he realized that he stood no chance against it. Unable to run, scream, much less confront it. Oi, oi, Rora! You're the one that told me to go with you when you pee at night, Livy! I'm lonely, I'm going to cry! The familiar sound of his voice faintly reached out to Rora, but his memory cut off there. Zack, Zack. The muffled sound of digging through the soil came to the ears of the slumbering Rora. The scent of the ground after the rain, the heavy feeling that deprived his body of freedom. Because of his muddled thoughts, it took a while to realize that he was apparently in the ground. Somehow he managed to wriggle around and could feel the soul on his limbs moving. Zack! With another sound, the feeling of the earth on his face disappeared. Suddenly a flash of light shone through Rora's eyelids. Peering at Rora from above the hole dug into the ground was a girl holding a lantern and shovel. From appearances, she seemed to be the same age as Rora, and was probably a human. Her hair tied up high, and her strong-willed gaze were impactful. Using all his might, Rora somehow managed to raise his upper body from the ground. He stretched out his dirt-covered fingertips toward the girl. You are... here is... If there was a problem with the manner in which he acted, it probably was the fact that his whole body was covered in dirt. He looked like an eerie zombie in the darkness of the night. The girl's fire-red eyes watched in astonishment. She tried to swallow her screams. She was not able to swallow them. Kya! The girl swung her shovel. Of course, she swung it at Rora. Wait a minute! His words were too late. Zack! And with a particularly dull sound echoing, the cutting edge pierced through Roa's shoulder. As a result, Roa's left arm fell off and onto the ground. The screams of the now soundless girl resounded throughout. It went without saying that it took time for them to regain their composure. Bad. Eh? I said, my bad. But you wouldn't normally expect to find a person buried in the ground. Are you one of those racers? Or is it a hobby? The girl clenched her fist, a stern look upon her face. I don't think it's a hobby. I don't even know why I was buried. And Roa's right hand was his torn off left arm. Strangely enough, there was no pain. His left arm was shriveled like a dry radish and seemed to have little function from the beginning. The cross-section of his shoulder also resembled a shriveled vegetable. His clothes were also in tatters and like they would fall apart at any moment. Roa, who was dug up safely after previous madness, could finally see where he was. They were at the base of a huge tree. Its roots had risen above the ground and were spreading out, and the trunk was so thick that it was hard to tell at a glance how far it stretched into the sky. Was winter coming? Or was it just an old tree? As he looked up, he could see that the tree was sparsely covered with dead leaves, which scattered as the wind blew. Surrounding the huge tree was a stone brick building. As it was late at night, no one else could be seen with the flickering torch. Apparently he had been buried underneath these roots, but without an idea why. When he tried to remember what happened before he lost consciousness, his head would hurt, unclear, as if covered in mist. The last thing was, that's right, he ate dinner as usual and fell asleep. Then there was Olivia. He squinted his eyes, trying to pull together the threads of his memory from then. Pia! A small dragon jumped out from behind the girl. It had fur the same colour as the fire red-coloured clothes she wore, with two magnificent horns. A small flame was burnt at the end of its tail. The girl looked to Roa as she rubbed her cheek against the dragon. This child is Momoke, a proud Narukami dragon, and I'm Raidi the Drag Ritter. Drag Ritters were knights of the Dragon Empire who fought alongside dragons. They were also known as Dragon Knights, with Nahalim and many others having made a name for themselves. However, a Drag Ritter fought while riding a dragon. To think that there were dragons this small, how cute! Cute? When the girl's voice suddenly dropped, he realized that he had stepped on a landmine and hastily changed the topic. Ah, that's right, I'm Roa. I see. Why were you buried in such a place? That's what I'd like to know. You must be a very active sleepwalker, infiltrating the sacred grounds and burying yourself in the ground. Sacred grounds? Where are we? Here, right under the world tree. Indeed, it seemed that this big tree was a world tree. World trees were trees with strong magical power that existed in many places on the planet Cray. Under its influence, the surrounding trees grow plentifully, and the animals live freely. Cities often flourished at the foot of a world tree, and priestesses existed to protect them. In his travels with Olivia, he had seen world trees from a distance, but this was the first time he got this close. Did he get transported through time and space without realizing it? If so, he needed to get back to Olivia as soon as possible. What part of the Zoo continent is this? East? No, perhaps the West? Zoo? Radiantly burst into laughter. What kind of joke is that? This is Stoicheia. Western Stoicheia. Theory. Stoicheia? He parroted back the strange word, radiantly nodded. I mean, Zoo has been gone for 3,000 years. Are you still asleep? Radiantly nodded vigorously. Please wait for it to be like that. 3,000 years was too big a number to be realistic. Furthermore, for a nation as large as Zoo to have disappeared was too ridiculous, even as a joke. Just as he was about to grab her by the shoulders and question her, they heard a sharp voice in the stone brick building. "Who's there?" Looking, however, he saw a group of bioroids with torches in their hands coming towards them. It was a sacred area, so they must have been guarding it. Tsk! Was a noisy click of her tongue. Radiantly violently grabbed something and threw it. With great control and a strong arm, it knocked down one of the guards. However, the thing that was thrown was my arm! Let's go, Momoke! Pya! Throwing down her shovel and lantern, she ran away from the guards, where Roa followed after her. She gave him a blatantly disgusted look. "Why are you following me?" Because it feels like they're really angry." "That's right. I knew it." At the same timing as when Roa was about to shout, he heard noisy voices saying, "There they are! Don't let them get away!" He was almost at a state of tears, but he would not cry. And so, the world of 3,000 years later, without any reasoning why, without a chance of rebuttal, raised its curtains. And that's the end of the story. So I hope you guys enjoy this part of the story. I will be reading the second chapter sometime next week. Again, if you did enjoy it, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And then while you're also down there, hit the notification bell so that when I upload another video, you will be notified.